Everybody knows matcha these days. Jennifer was telling me that it has over 1,000 years history. Let's find out more in today's conversation with me and Rocky. Welcome back on ROCK SEO YouTube channel. Today I'm here with Jennifer and we will talk about tea.
Hi, Rocky.
Jennifer Norwick is the founder of Cultivate Taste Tea, a luxury single origin loose leaf tea company specializing in terroir driven teas from renowned mountains and historic tea regions. A certified tea specialist trained at the Specialty Tea Institute in New York with over 30 years of experience in tea and 35 years in the gourmet food industry. She built the company on a clear business philosophy of no blends, no artificial flavorings, and no shortcuts, serving both discerning consumers and premium hospitality clients. Welcome on ROCK SEO.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you and Rocky for having me.
Tell us more about how you started the business,
Tea has become a little bit more, especially even more recently, a little more of a commodity. There was a time where it was considered, you could find specialty. You could also find commodity. I mean, that's not the issue. It's just that it's becoming rare. And I saw a lot of people putting a lot of stuff into tea. And when they do that, it's usually you have to have a lower grade because it's not quality. And that's why I kind of wanted to focus, because I have all my education and decades in my industry. I feel like could be qualified to highlight the quality and high-end, high-quality teas can have, and just appreciate the leaf for what it is, because there's over 5,000 years history in tea. So there's a long history and cultures around that.
But do you think that people these days, we can start from this, are getting more and more into healthy stuff? I heard from other guests, they mention, hey, after the COVID, everybody want to be healthier and stuff. So there's a more of this research for healthier things.
I think it's healthier in certain areas, definitely, but I have seen it increase, and tea that I source is naturally on the healthy side itself too.
When you started the business, I guess you were passionate about growing tea or learning more about how to grow tea. You know more than me. Obviously, it's not my area here. But then eventually you switched to having your own business, for selling essentially. So can you tell us what was maybe the difficulties between being, let's say, a practitioner than then a business owner?
What got me into it is just talking to people. My training helped me a lot. It helped develop my palate. Connecting with fellow people who grow tea in different regions and their passion. And for some, it's down history, decades and hundreds and thousands of years of why they've been growing this, and how they're just very in tune to it. You know what I mean? If you literally grew up where the tea gardens, you learn from the very beginning, so you have a very fine, very exquisite knowledge base there. You know what I mean? It's almost intuitive because you've just literally grew up with it. And I just wanted to highlight, the strengths of those people who, this is their passion, and I want to, allow people to see their passion and how they're acquiring excellence in it.
Practically speaking, what does it make a good tea versus a bad tea?
There has to be good structure to it. It has to be able to brew several times. Actually, that's not necessarily being cheap. It's because sometimes each brew will bring out different qualities in the tea, actually. So it'll have slightly different taste profiles. And I think it also varies on so many things. Excellent terroir, excellent varietals. It has people knowing which varietal to use to produce a certain tea, the history, the culture in there. There's a lot that's involved. It's not, I always say about tea, it's just literally water and tea, but yet there's a lot of depth and complexity to it, a lot more than most people know it is. And some people, even in the industry, don't realize how much depth and complexity that you can even get the different taste profiles and structure from, different pickings, different flushes. That picking is a flush. you can get, trying to think of, you know, a different farmer from the next door will have their different soil. I mean, this is kind of compared, you can kind of compare it a little bit to wine that way. You know what I mean? How they have a very, well regarded history. If you get especially fine wines, they're all the depth and complexity that you can get in the varietals. I mean, each year is different,
Yes, I know something about wine. I mean, not growing wine, but I'm from Italy, so we have the traditional winery and stuff in my region, especially. So that's super interesting. I never considered there could be a parallel then, but it's I think it's a good comparison. And over the recent times, it's been popularized the matcha, no? The matcha everywhere essentially. So I thought, hey, I have the expert on today. I will ask her. Matcha, a myth or reality? I mean, is it really a good thing? It's just a hype these days. Tell us more about matcha.
I would say definitely matcha is definitely very healthy. It can be very tasty. Um, there is, because it has been flooded. Even though matcha originally started in China, I technically think the Japanese do it better. And I think, China does really excellent quality other teas. It's just, um, I don't, I don't know, but definitely is a hype, because there are sometimes, because everybody, most people nowadays know that Ceremonial is great, but sometimes they'll put Ceremonial, say it's Ceremonial when it isn't actually Ceremonial. So there is some of that hype because they know that they can't sell it otherwise. Um, but if you get higher and higher quality Ceremonial grades, or actually mine is technically an Imperial, which is just slightly better. But if you go higher end Ceremonial grades, they're still exquisite. It's just that they do that, or because they know too, sometimes the color is what indicates it. They'll put dyes in there, so you have to make sure that you're with reputable people, because last year was really the year of matcha. Even though I've heard for like a decade or more that it was becoming popular type of thing, but it just really hit last year. So there is that. So you have to make sure um, that you're really getting it, and that when it says ceremony, it actually is.
That's super fun to hear as well, because even here in Prague, we noticed there are matcha cafe now popping everywhere. Every coffee shop has their matcha latte version and stuff, so it's definitely coming up. And I was about actually to order some with my wife because we started getting into it ourselves. And what you mentioned just now, this ceremonial grade, can you explain a little better? Because I went, let's say I go to Amazon or even a quality supplier, not maybe the generic, and in fact, they have different types, and they normally list the ceremonial, or that there is a culinary, I think they call it, or normal matcha. Can you tell us the difference? Is the purity what it is?
Well, culinary is what it is. It'll be a little bit browner. It won't be as vibrant green usually, especially if they don't add anything to it. But it's more there for taste, to add to things. And if you get a really good ceremonial grade, then you don't add anything to it. You drink it straight. That's actually, if you get a nice higher end ceremonial grade, it will ruin it. Um, I mean, you won't get the strength and the quality that matcha is. Actually, technically, between culinary, there is tech and ceremonial, there is a latte grade, but I don't see it as much, and that is actually a lower grade, and that's why they put milk in it, because it's not as good quality. Um, Culinary is basically for cooking and baking. You might be able to do it a little bit in industrial use, but you're going to have to add something because it doesn't taste as good, if that makes sense. And there's some stuff that I even think there is a difference in level, even in culinary. Excuse me, not culinary. In ceremonial grades, because I have had exquisite ceremonial grades that probably are truly actually ceremonial grades. As I said, mine is actually an imperial, but there's some I'm just wondering if they're kind of just squeaking in, or they're just getting on the fad that a lot of people know ceremonial is the one to get more than anything, and it's really more like a latte or a culinary grade, and they're just trying to get people because they don't know enough about it. They just know, got to get a ceremonial, got to, you know what I mean, type of thing.
Great, great stuff. And wait, one more thing about matcha. Sorry, I'm so curious on this topic. What about the little brush? I mean, it's key. You have to mix it. It has to be super smooth when you prepare it.
I think it helps definitely. There have been times where I haven't, you know what I mean? If I'm away from where my home and I forgot to bring it, I will use something else to do it. I just think it's done. I mean, they've done it for almost 1,000 years. They've had this whisk, so they've purposely made it to make it sure that it works really well. If that makes sense, it's kind of a specialized tool more than anything. I mean, it's not the end of the world. And I have, as I said, when in a pinch, but I do have one and I like to do it because I also think of it as kind of like a little bit of meditating. You can kind of really get into it. And also, too, with matcha is the fact that you don't have to wait for it to be steeped. So you're probably using less time whisking that than you would steep another tea, if that makes sense too. I think the whisk is important.
I thought, hey, they're selling all these little toys. It's just a marketing, but then turns out it's really useful for what you want to achieve, right?
And there really literally is, matcha bowls. There's sifters. These are not marketing things. Actually, yes, I do understand marketing gimmicks and stuff like that. But actually, the irony is probably with most of the matcha stuff, it really isn't a gimmick. There is a little spoon that they use to put it in. It's kind of like the bamboo thing that is traditional. There is a thing that holds the matcha whisk, and that is traditional. Actually, all that stuff is traditionally done. So that's the funny thing, because I do understand, marketing is, oh, you gotta have this, and it's like, not really, type of thing, or maybe just one or two things. But if you're doing a traditional, or you know what I mean, sometimes people are doing this, they're kind of having a busy day, and they just kind of want to, have their time. This is their, zen, or quiet time. This is kind of, they just focus on that. Then you can use all that, you know what I mean? And that is traditionally used.
And people have been replacing coffee, even I heard. So as a coffee drinker, not crazy like my fellow Italian connationals, which might drink 7 espressos a day. But I heard people also can replace it. It doesn't give you maybe those jitters, as they say, from the coffee, but still giving you a little boost, so to say.
That would be the L-theanine in it. That's why, yes. And there also will be there will be less caffeine. The only way you'll get more caffeine or equivalent caffeine is if it's added to it, if that makes sense, the leaf. Even though that's the irony is that technically the tea leaf has more caffeine than coffee. It just can be extracted easier in coffee, if that makes sense. It's very hard to extract it. And that's partially why matcha has more caffeine than, I would say, I haven't been able to find anything that a tea naturally done that has more caffeine, and that's literally because you're ingesting the leaf itself.
There are, in fact, some teas. It's true that they read on the label caffeine free, right? And there are some others that don't, so it means they have it. And it happened before that I drink it in the evening, and I couldn't sleep until two in the morning. So there was something in it, definitely. You're right on that. How do you think customer expectations in terms of taste, are changing today? Because we have all these products available, matcha, this beautiful thing. I mean, it's been from thousands of years, but I think people are being exposed to more things. But how their expectations change?
There is the age of influencers. It used to be, until like AI became really big the last few years, but it was always Googling things. But you know what is that when you're Googling it, that just means that it's the most popular. It does not mean it's the most accurate. So there is some people, you know, um, who are trying to re-educate people, you know what I mean? To realize this is what it is, because there's, all this people who don't really know about tea, but they're become instant experts, even though they really don't. And there, there's some of that. I think some of that is a little bit waning a little. I think some people are seeing it, but you see, I mean, as you said, you're seeing matcha lattes and stuff like that. And that has been very recently. And that's also coincides with tea becoming a little more of a commodity versus going back to where, you know, non, a specialty. I mean, I literally specialty tea institute that tells you, specialty um, in the tea. And I just want to keep that, going. I want high quality. I want, like the wines. There isn't exactly the same with wines, but there is a lot of parallels. And I said, terroir driven and everything like that. So there are some of us who are trying to um, showcase the exquisite quality and taste profile. Also, I think too is the fact that I have noticed when Tivana in the United States, I don't know if they had it anywhere else, when Starbucks bought it, and then they kind of almost tanked that brand, and it kind of seemed like then coffee was trying to, dictate how tea is. And I'm not technically a coffee drinker, but I do appreciate that. I mean, I actually did own a coffee house way back in the day. We did have a large thing of tea, so it's not that I don't. It's just not what I drink. But and I know, exquisite quality want that they do. There can be exquisite quality and craft in coffee. It's just that it's different than tea, and I think sometimes people in coffee are a little bit dictating how tea is, and coffee can be a little bit bolder. There can be some boldness, but there's also lightness, delicacy. There's a depth and complexity in tea. It's a little more delicate, and I think it should hold on its own merits, if that makes sense.
Two themes now that are sparking for this latest thing you mentioned. So one, AI. I thought we would not talk about AI today, but it's coming everywhere all the time. So, but what you mentioned, AI, people searching, understand, thinking they do know about things, but then they don't. And that's one thing I was telling my other guests in different areas, marketing, other things, where especially the younger folks are searching there, and they think they get the right answers, but they lack the experience. So that's one area where I think we need to be careful also how people use it. And what you just mentioned, people think they know about tea by using AI, and then turns out it's wrong. So what do you think? They're using sources wrong, or just they mix things together and then the answer comes all patched up?
They're hearing how everybody else is doing it, and they think that's the way. You know what I mean? To do it. And the funny thing is, I do use AI sometimes, so it's not fully against it, but I do see where it's just because it's more popular. Because actually, the funny thing is when I have been on AI once, and I asked about something, and it's like, the truth or popularity, and they said, "Well, what about influencers?" It's like in tea, and it's like, well, that's not the truth. Not it doesn't it isn't necessarily the truth. They consider it true because an influencer, because they're popular, and popularity doesn't mean something is correct. It can sometimes. I'm not, just saying that, but something's popular means it's popular. It doesn't mean it's correct or it's true or anything. It just means it's popular. It's kind of like something is popular. It doesn't mean that tastes good. It's just popular. You know what I mean? It can sometimes, but I don't. And there's people who've been doing in their industries who've been doing it for a while, and I'm assuming, yeah, as you said, you have a better understanding in the marketing area. I have the better understanding in the tea area, where it's just kind of like, not really, type of thing.
If you look for information, trust either reputable people or reputable websites, right? Because also, the AI these days is still pulling some degree of information from websites, one way or another. People might not say this. So there are the data entities. If you want to know more, watch our previous episode with Andrea, which we recorded last week, by the way, going deep on this. But yeah, still, the lack of information on certain topics will then create erroneous answers on the tool, and that's something that we should be careful about, because it's very tempting. It's easy, you can use your voice even to ask questions, but that's one area. You see, I didn't know about this because that's not my field of expertise, but I know we need to be careful. And even when you create something, a strategy, for instance, which things I will do, I can quickly see if it's wrong or right, and I will refine, and it will help me doing them faster, for sure. Just when you did your research on history of tea, something maybe around that area, you immediately spotted error on issues, right? So I think this is something that with behind the scenes AI people, you need to think for our younger generations, because otherwise they'll get everything wrong all the time, or not quite right. Maybe almost right, but not right, and will make more confusion. Earlier on, you mentioned coffee people are different than tea people, and made me think, hey, there is a strong coffee lobby, people doing things behind the scenes, but probably there's a degree of truth there. Like coffee people are really, the coffee industry is super powerful. What, I don't know if you can add anything to this.
Yeah, I think that it stands on its own merits. You know what I mean? That's more what it is. It's not that I'm against coffee. I'm just against coffee dictating tea. That's more what it is. And I have seen it a stronger influence in that way. And I'm just like, well, okay, there's over 5,000 years of history in this. You know what I mean? Um, there's there's many cultures that have 3,000, over 1,000 years of history. Um, you know, coffee has its own history, which is great. It's that there's other aspects about it. I do remember I very bit, like you get, it's from Ethiopia originally, and you know what I mean? Certain ones will have certain taste profiles. Well, so does tea, but saw it also become a little bit more of a commodity where it was cheaper. And I have seen the mass into black tea versus, the depth and complexity. I mean, bolder, you can get, if you're looking for bolder that way, usually you can go for like a good eight. Most of the aged teas or dark teas like pu'ers. But if you want depth and complexity, you go for oolongs. They're so completely complex, and that's why I love them. If you want really light and delicate, there's white teas, and they're naturally sweet. And then and then green teas. There's a huge taste profile difference, and there's for fresh. They're a little bit fresher taste profiles. They'll have vegetal taste profiles, um, umami, all that. So I just think there's a lot of depth and complexity, and I want to appreciate and highlight that. Coffee has its own great taste profiles, but they're different, I think. You know what I mean? There's some similarity, but tea has been really gearing towards black tea very, very recently. I really think it's because of coffee dictating that it has to be bolder and stronger.
I've been on your LinkedIn profile and I noticed that you participated to some, experiences or meeting people around the world for tea, in fact. So connected to what you just mentioned, what are the geographies that you think are very important for tea these days or that were maybe meaningful for you when you went in a certain place, whether it's China or another one?
Well, definitely China is. And that's where it all started. I've been to the UNESCO World Heritage Site for Longjin or Dragonwell. This is like, when you think, I guess in the United States or maybe even Europe too, I don't know how, but when you think of rock stars, that's how we were treated. I mean, I literally had people peeling about like oranges for me, and I'm like, these were easily peeled oranges, but you felt like you didn't want to say no, I can do this myself, because you didn't feel it would be rude. Yeah, there's 3,000 years history in Vietnam. There's over 1,000 years in Japan, Korea. um, and the newbie, one of the newer ones, because it's little over maybe 50 years, is they're doing it in Thailand. So it's just, I don't know, there's exquisite qualities to each of these, and that's kind of why I've focused in these areas, because I wanted to highlight them. I wanted to showcase them, and obviously Taiwan, exquisite oolong teas that they're well known for, and that's the thing is with even with China, because it's such a big country, there's so many different taste profiles. Even if you're going for just like a green tea, which so many different taste profiles for each different area and how it's all done. So yeah.
What type of varieties will people find on your from your company? You'll pick and choose the best ones, that one that you prefer from these countries. What is the experience for a buyer if I go on your website these days?
In the state I'm in, I have the largest oolong tea because I really am an oolong girl. I like the depth and complexity in there. I have it from, um, you know, I have it from several different countries. I do have one from Japan. I have many from Taiwan and China. I do have some because Thailand is starting to try to build up to be oolongs also. Oh, and I do have some from Vietnam too. So it's just highlighting and showcasing the qualities that they're bringing for their teas. Like, even the ones in Thailand, they're a little more rustic style right now, but they're developing that, and they're really trying to, become a little more forward with that. I do have some exquisite, really light and delicate white teas. I don't know. It's, I love green teas. I love Korean green teas. Over 20 years ago, I learned from a Korean tea master, and that at that time nobody knew about Korean green teas. Um, Korea is known for green teas, like Japan, and actually, technically, China is too, and Vietnam. But the thing is that Korea, they drink a lot of it. They grow a lot, but they drink a lot of it. So that's why most people have not heard about it. I have seen a little more recently, but 20 years ago, I did not know anything about Korean green tea, and I fell in love with it.
So are there any new varieties that you want to bring next to your store that you don't have? Hey, I have to visit that country next. What's next on the list?
I did technically get a aged puer. Um, this is almost all the puers I get are from Yunnan area where puers are from. But I got one from Myanmar, which is like old Burma. Um, and that actually has a very long history because it's right next to Yunnan and it's the very northern part of Myanmar. So there is a long history of doing it there too. So that was a recent one that I have. I haven't really thought about it yet. Now you got me thinking. Now I got to figure out, where I'm going to find the next really exquisite tea from. Maybe it's still in the countries that I have. Maybe it's a different country. I haven't really fully figured that out yet.
For our brother listeners, do you sell worldwide? Can I order here? Are you gonna send to Europe?
Yes. Oh, I have. I've been selling to Europe for quite a while. I've sold to, Switzerland a few times, France a few times, Germany several times, the greater UK. I've done every single country and several times to England. And the funny thing is the ones they buy from me are my oolongs and my Japanese green teas. So it's not, when people think, UK, it isn't what, English breakfast or whatever type of thing. And I've done Norway. I'm trying to think of all the different countries.
Okay, you touch on a couple of things here. Okay, UK, we used to live in London a number of years. And okay, great tea drinkers, but with one big but, they put milk in it. So for you as a purist, what do you think of putting milk in the tea?
I don't do it. I haven't done it. I mean, I will. If I do it, it's like once or twice a year because I'm showing, I'm at somewhere and I'm trying, culturally the respect for it. But otherwise, I don't do it normally ever. The irony is that for a long time they were drinking it, straight up in England. That's when it was considered higher grade. That was, the upper class and everything. It's only when it they, lack of term, to the masses, to the lower class or whatever, that the lower quality teas that they started adding milk was then. So that's it adds a little more credence to what I'm saying is that it's, and besides it usually is still currently it's lower grade teas that they're using and they put milk and sugar and all the other additives because it's not really the highlight. It's the and that's the irony too is the fact that people are talking about, I have to put this in, about being healthy and then they're adding all this unhealthy additive. So there's a weird dichotomy that way. I think it's intriguing and interesting. It's just like, oh, I want to be healthy, but I want to put, 100 calories in there. And, tea itself naturally has none. So, if you want to be healthy.
Yeah, I personally found very weird adding milk, in the tea, and where when they use the Earl Grey tea. Sorry for my UK friends here. I always found that that's like you're ruining a product already, or because you have to cover up a taste which is unpleasant to begin with, so you have to drop milk in it and just drink something better instead, right? Or I don't know. I wouldn't be doing that in the first place. People. I'd say some a cultural thing here. From Italy, people looking at the British drinking tea with the milk, they think, oh, that's just dirty water, and they will just drink milk in it. So sorry, guys, don't want to be unpopular here. I'm just saying for what it is. So these cultural things, which I think are also fascinating, by the way, because the cultural aspect is so different, and the part of being human as well.
Definitely. I agree totally that way. I just, as I said, I'll probably have it once or twice a year. And it's just more showing the respect than it's something that I personally drink that way.
Jen, for our next question, what is the popularity of tea worldwide? And I know this varies greatly between countries. Can you tell us more about this?
The most popular drink in the world is water. The second is tea. Then I think it is beer is the next one. And I'm not sure between coffee and wine is between, I'm not sure. I think they're four or five. I can't remember which one in the world.
And the biggest countries you were saying it a moment ago, which are the main for tea?
The country as a whole, China drinks the most tea. Per capita, it is Turkey, and then it is Ireland. So, but there's other countries like India is a huge country now, technically surpassed China in population.
Thank you for sharing that. And looking ahead, what does it excite you the most about your industry?
Connecting with people, their passions, their drives, connecting with my customers who I tend to get them who like to tell me like they're just as enthused as I am and impassioned about tea, it seems like, or they just love buying from me. I have some really great customers and they'll tell me the reason why. Oh, I'm getting this for a friend. Oh, I'm getting this gift for somebody because they're helping me on something, and so they give a year-long subscription. They're sending it to people because they're from that country and want them to feel special. And I don't know. It's just there's a lot of I was have a lot of people who give it as gifts. So I appreciate it, and it's nice to know, or they're from that area and they want to get some good quality teas, from the country, if they're from Vietnam, then Vietnam, China, China type of thing. So, and then I get other people who are just want to learn more and type of thing, and they're trying to expand and develop their palates.
Do you think people sometimes they think they're buying good tea, but then they end up not buying good tea?
Most grocery stores, I mean, there you can get a little better than some, but it's still rarely are you going to extremely rarely are you going to get a really good quality tea in those. It's yeah, cuz I think there's a lot of misinformation, as I said, because I think the popularity, to the influencers that may or may not know, and it's because of their palates. But the thing is they've never been, had the palates developed. They've never been professionally trained. They maybe, as I said, they'll look something up. It used to be Google, now it's the AI, and that's just everything, type of thing. And that's not getting the nuances. It's kind of like a surface layer type of thing versus getting in deep and knowing all of that. So yeah, I do think there's a lot of that where they don't know. They think that they're supposed to put a lot of stuff in it. I've seen a lot of people who are really, you know, blending, and I have other tea people I know who do that, and that's their philosophy. And I don't know, to me, as I said, I think I like to drink tea for tea itself more than anything. It's kind of like, I mean, it's like a really fine wine. Do you think of adding anything to it if you have an exquisite wine? I mean, I know there's a few minor things like, um, what is it? During Christmas, sometimes they'll have, and it probably is a cheaper wine that they add something to it, and spices and stuff. But that's more the exception to the rule than, what you're really thinking. And it's probably not a really high end, high quality wine. You don't put anything because it tastes good. If, on its own, it stands on its own merits. And that's what I want to do with tea.
Talking about the education, if someone wants to know again, learning more about tea, finding out more information, coming in your store, buying there, but first they have to do some legwork, not to study and learn more. What do you think is a good resource? Do you have some website, something to share for our viewers, perhaps?
Most popular isn't always correct. Sometimes it'll be right, but I see it more as like throwing dice. Sometimes you get the numbers, sometimes you don't. I've done anything from, I do tea festivals across the United States. So I do tea education that way. If they're in the United States, I know you're in Europe. So that's the reason why I didn't fully mention that. But I do, I've done the health benefits of tea. I did Freight Medical College in Wisconsin. I've done that education. I've done Zen and Taoism and the importance of it in the connection with it within tea. And there is a definite connection. I will talk about specific teas. I do, because my palate's really developed, I'll do professional tea tastings and cuppings, they're called. I actually am going to be in Chicago in a couple weeks, and I'm going to be doing a cheese and tea pairing. I've done pairings with foods before, so I'm for Wisconsin, so we gotta. That's what we're known for good cheeses. So that's what I doing, and it's also. I mean, we were thinking wine. They do pair it with cheese.
I didn't know tea and cheese. That's a bit new. So, guys, if you want to know more from about tea, get in touch with Jen. We'll drop her contacts down below for getting in touch with her. Thank you so much for that. Where can people find you? In fact, what is the best channel?
Well, you can do my website, cultivatetaste.com. I also am on Etsy. I am Cultivate Taste Tea. I have over 1,100 reviews, 5 out of 5 star there. If there's a live video show that they're doing, what's not. I'm on there selling live. And I do wholesale. I'm in Cisco. I'm in Cheney Brothers. This is all in the United States right now. So I don't know how this is prevalent, or Bizzatos. Those are up and down the West Coast. They're all specialty distributors. And I do also do wholesale to smaller ones on Farrell.
If you want to know more, please get in touch with Jen. Thank you so much for the view, Jen. If there was someone you could recommend us to speak with next, who would that be?
It would probably be Gemma. I don't remember her last name. She's part of Alliances. It's Gemma. You can. That's a unique first name. You probably can find her pretty easily.
Thank you, Jen. I'll look her up. We learned a lot of things about tea, and now we know that if we need to find great tea, we'll go to Jen and find out on the Cultivate Tea. Any final words?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you and Rocky for allowing me to have this time to speak about my passion.
Rocky wants to go. Thank you, Jen. It was nice having you on. Bye.
Bye.